Welcome to Life Tells Stories, where we bring you inspiring and eye-opening tales of resilience, betrayal, and incredible twists of fate. Today, we're diving into a jaw-dropping story about a woman named Claire, whose life seemed to completely fall apart after her husband, Eric, betrayed her in the worst way possible. But just when Claire thought everything was lost, her luck made a drastic turn. Her inspiring journey will make you believe that sometimes life's most painful moments lead to the greatest rewards. Have you ever wondered if good karma really comes around after the hardest struggles? Stick around to find out how Claire's story will inspire you to trust the journey, even when it seems impossible. Before we start, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and like this video to stay updated with more impactful stories like this. Your support means the world to us and keeps these motivational stories coming. Claire had always believed in the promises she made with her husband, Eric, in sickness and in health, through good times and bad. However, one evening, her entire world crumbled. Claire, who had been battling cancer for 4 years, heard words that shattered her heart. "I want a divorce." Eric was tired of the struggles, and what was worse, he had been cheating on Claire for over a year. Eric admitted he found someone else, someone who made him feel alive again. He no longer wanted to deal with Claire's sickness and the financial strain that had been taking a toll on their marriage. The heartlessness of Eric's admission was more than just infidelity. It was the cruel dismissal of the person who had stood by his side, believing in the love they once shared. Claire was devastated, but the worst was yet to come. Eric's words hit her like a knife to the heart. And it wasn't just the betrayal that hurt. It was the complete disregard for everything they had built together. Not only did Eric want to leave Claire, but he had also meticulously planned to strip her of everything. Eric had already hired the best divorce attorney in town and had deliberately approached every other lawyer in the area so that Claire would be left without quality legal representation. He knew the financial toll of her illness had drained their resources, and he used it to his advantage. Eric presented Claire with divorce papers that left her with absolutely nothing. With an arrogant smirk, he told her to sign the papers or face a legal battle that would drain her dry. Claire felt cornered and helpless, especially when Eric ordered her to leave their shared home that very night. It seemed that Eric had thought of everything. He canceled their shared credit cards, changed the bank account passwords, and made sure Claire was left without any means of support. He wanted her out of his life completely, and he wanted it on his terms. Claire was heartbroken by Eric's cruelty. This wasn't just a divorce. It was a deliberate, calculated attempt to destroy her. She realized that the man she thought she knew had become someone entirely different, someone willing to go to any length to cut her off from what they had once shared. With nowhere to go, Claire found herself standing at the reception desk of a budget motel, feeling humiliated and completely broken. She tried to use her credit card, but to her horror, it had been declined. Thanks to Eric. The motel receptionist showed little sympathy, leaving Claire with few options. In desperation, she scraped together enough cash for a night in a dingy motel room. It wasn't much, but it was at least a roof over her head. Sitting in that room, Claire's mind spun with thoughts of loss. Her marriage, her home, her sense of security. She felt like she had hit rock bottom. She lay awake that night, staring at the peeling ceiling, tears streaming down her face. Everything had happened so quickly, and she felt powerless against the storm that had overtaken her life. She had no idea how she would get through the next day, let alone find a way to survive in the long term. The darkness of that motel room mirrored the darkness she felt in her heart. A deep, inescapable sadness that seemed impossible to overcome. The next morning, Claire tried to pick herself up. Despite the heartbreak, she went to work, hoping to regain a sense of normalcy. But life wasn't done testing her just yet. Because she had been late, her boss was already furious. Her disheveled appearance and late arrival couldn't be overlooked. She was fired on the spot. Claire pleaded, trying to explain the events of the previous night, but her boss didn't want to hear any excuses. The job she had depended on, The last source of stability she had left was taken away just like everything else. In the span of 48 hours, Claire had lost her husband, her home, her money, and now her job. She felt hopeless, and tears streamed down her face as she walked out of the office for the last time. Claire's termination was the final blow. She had always been a dedicated employee, and to lose her job simply because her personal life had fallen apart felt incredibly unfair. Her heart felt heavy as she walked away from the building, knowing she now had no income and no way to pay for her basic needs. The world felt cold and indifferent, and she felt entirely alone. In the midst of her sorrow, Claire found herself in a small convenience store, barely able to afford a sandwich. The store clerk, an elderly lady named Rose, noticed Claire's tears and gently asked if she was okay. Claire hesitated, but eventually confided in Rose about her struggles. Rose listened compassionately, sharing her own philosophy about life, that everything happens for a reason, and when one door closes, another one opens. Sensing Claire's despair, Rose decided to do something small but meaningful. She bought Claire a lottery ticket, insisting that Claire's luck had to change eventually. Claire was touched by Rose's kindness. She was down to her last few dollars, and Rose's generosity felt like a glimmer of light in an otherwise dark tunnel. The lottery ticket was a symbol of hope, and although Claire doubted her luck, she accepted it with gratitude. Rose's kindness was more than just the lottery ticket. It was the warmth and compassion that she showed to a complete stranger. In that moment, Claire realized that there were still good people in the world. Rose's words about life and fate resonated deeply with Claire, and for the first time in days, she felt like maybe there was a way forward. It was a small spark, but it was enough to help her keep going. That night, Claire watched the lottery draw with little expectation. The jackpot was over $500 million, an unimaginable amount. To her absolute shock, the numbers on her ticket matched. Claire had won the jackpot. In a matter of seconds, her life transformed. The woman who had been left with nothing suddenly had everything she could ever need. The irony was not lost on Claire. After losing her husband, her home, and her job, she had just won enough money to start her life anew. It was as if fate was rewarding her for enduring the pain, for refusing to give up even when she had every reason to. Claire fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face, but this time, they were tears of overwhelming relief and joy. She could barely believe her luck. She felt a rush of emotions, disbelief, gratitude, and a sense of freedom she had not felt in a long time. Claire realized that she was no longer at the mercy of those who had hurt her. She finally had the power to rebuild her life on her own terms. News of Claire's win spread quickly, and it wasn't long before Eric came crawling back. Driven by greed, he took Claire to court, demanding that he was entitled to half of the lottery winnings. After all, they had been married for 10 years, and he claimed that he deserved a share of her newfound fortune. Eric's sense of entitlement was astounding. He had tossed Claire aside without a second thought, yet now that she was successful, he wanted to be a part of her life again. He claimed that their shared years together meant that he deserved half of what she had won, conveniently ignoring the fact that he had taken everything from her when he left. In his arrogance, Eric truly believed he could manipulate the legal system to get what he wanted. He had no remorse for what he had done to Claire. He only saw dollar signs. But Claire was no longer the broken woman he had left behind. She was stronger now, and she was ready to fight back. The judge ruled decisively against Eric. He pointed out that Eric had demanded a quick divorce and had made it abundantly clear that Claire was entitled to nothing of his. Since the lottery ticket was purchased after their divorce was finalized, Eric had no claim to the winnings. The court denied Eric's motion, and his attempt to take advantage of Claire's newfound fortune crumbled before his eyes. The judge's words were a powerful affirmation of Claire's journey. Eric had pushed for a quick divorce. He had shown no empathy, and he had discarded Claire when she needed support the most. Now he was facing the consequences of his actions. Justice had been served, and the courtroom was filled with a sense of triumph for Claire. Claire was vindicated, and it was a moment of pure justice. The same man who had kicked her out and left her with nothing was now begging for a piece of her success, and he got exactly what he deserved: nothing. Have you ever felt like someone who wronged you got what they deserved? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts on karma and justice. After the court's ruling, Eric tried to get back into Claire's good graces, apologizing and trying to rekindle their relationship. But Claire had grown stronger. She refused to let Eric back into her life. His betrayal had been the catalyst for her transformation, and she wasn't about to let him reap the benefits of her newfound happiness. Claire told Eric firmly that their relationship was over for good. She no longer needed him, and she no longer feared him. The power he had once held over her was gone, replaced by a newfound strength and independence. Claire's success was hers alone, and she was determined to build a new life without the shadow of Eric's manipulation and cruelty. With the wealth she had won, Claire was able to rebuild her life. On her own terms, she bought a new house, invested in her health, and began to live the life she had always dreamed of. Most importantly, she did it all without Eric, the man who had once tried to break her. She realized that her happiness was never dependent on him, and that was the greatest victory of all. Claire never forgot the kindness that Rose had shown her during her darkest hour. She visited Rose at the convenience store, this time with a smile on her face and a sparkle in her eyes. She handed Rose a check for $50 million, a gesture of gratitude that left Rose speechless. Rose had once told Claire that when one door closes, another one opens, and Claire wanted Rose to be part of that open door. It was a beautiful full-circle moment, an act of kindness rewarded with even greater generosity. Rose could finally retire from her minimum wage job and enjoy her golden years in peace, just as Claire had hoped. The tears of gratitude in Rose's eyes were worth every penny. Claire knew that Rose had given her hope when she needed it the most, and now it was her turn to give back. The two women shared an emotional hug, and Claire knew that this was only the beginning of a new chapter, one built on compassion, generosity, and hope for the future. Claire's story is a powerful reminder that life is unpredictable, but resilience and kindness can take us further than we could ever imagine. From betrayal and loss to winning a jackpot and finding new purpose, Claire's journey is proof that we should never lose hope. Even in the darkest times, there is always a possibility for light to break through. Karma has a funny way of working things out. Sometimes, the people who try to hurt us end up being their own worst enemies. And sometimes, the kindness we put into the world comes back to us in ways we could never have expected. If you enjoyed Claire's inspiring story, please make sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. We have many more amazing stories coming your way that will touch your heart and motivate you to keep believing in the power of kindness, resilience, and hope. Thank you for watching, and remember, no matter how tough things get, when one door closes, another one always opens. Stay strong, stay kind, and we'll see you in the next story. Take care, stay inspired, and until next time, goodbye, and keep believing in yourself.